Hi everyone and welcome to the Q3 Allsopp and Allsopp report. We're here to talk about property news in the quarter 3 of 2019. We're going to talk about transactions. We're going to talk about any trends in the property market you need to know about and give you information to make decisions on the Dubai property market. I'd like to welcome Paul Kelly, the Operations Director.
Good morning, guys.
Good morning to me as well.
Good morning, Lewis.
Good morning. I don't know, it's morning as well. Could be
Sorry, good day.
Okay, so we're here to talk today about trends in the market. So we've printed off news and we've got stats in the market. So the main things we want to talk about is what's happening in the market. So before we talk about stats, let's talk about sentiment. From your point of view and what you see, what's the sentiment in the market? Is it good, bad? What are they saying about the prices?
I think sentiment's excellent in the market at the moment. I think, first of all, one of the biggest barometers for us is just talking to our agents who are out on the ground, meeting clients day in, day out.
Yeah.
They're busier than ever at the moment. They're conducting more viewings than ever at the moment.
Yeah.
And what the feedback they're getting from clients at the moment is that people are out there, people are wanting to buy. It used to be the case that maybe we promoted our mortgage services to people in the past. Now people are coming to us to say, hey guys, how can I afford a property? I want to buy in this market. Yeah.
I was at golf for the weekend and we got put in with a random guy that I'd never met before, and it's really interesting to hear people's mindset. I was like, how long have you been here? He goes, 2 years. And so I said, I work in property. He was like, how do I get a mortgage?
Yeah.
And like, wow,
exactly.
like people are really pushing towards it, and I think that is a massive sentiment that we're seeing. People are pushing towards wanting to buy.
I think wherever you go, people are also thinking now's the right time to buy. They've watched the market come down over the past 4 or 5 years. There's a general feeling out there that we're either at or close to the bottom of the curve, and it's whether I've been to doctors and I get talking to doctors, and the doctors think about buying property, talk to the guys.
What are we doing, doctors? You okay?
This is my little boy.
No, but I agree with you. It's everywhere. The whole market is someone wants to buy, but it's the thing we've talked about and harped on about is when you say, oh yeah, you need 33 or 35%, they go, oh, okay, I'll carry on renting. So yeah, I agree with the sentiments there. I think the funny thing is if you say to someone, oh, I'm in real estate, I'm a estate agent, they give you a little pat on the head and go, are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you okay? And people won't want to believe you when they say transactions happening. So we've had our record months in our second biggest month we've ever had in September.
Yeah.
And our biggest month ever was this year as well, wasn't it, in May?
Yep.
And if you tell anyone, they go, you're lying. You're lying, I don't believe what. Obviously, it's contributed to many factors. The company's growing, but also there are a lot of sales happening, and it's being talked about in the news, which we're going to go on to in a minute, but people who don't own a property or not involved won't want to believe that sales are happening because they go, why would anyone buy in this market?
Yeah, no, they don't. And people read the headlines, and like we always say, we're 6 to 8 months ahead of the headlines because we see what's going on in the market right here and now today.
Correct.
Whereas by the time it filters through to the papers, once things are transferred and data's released, the actual headlines from 6 to 8 months ago.
6 months behind what we're actually seeing, and that's why it's so important to speak to the estate agent because what we're doing is, like I said, projected in 6 months. Okay, so let's go through some stats here. So 18% increase from this time last year to today of cash buyers.
Q3,
very interesting stat.
Yeah.
What do you put that down to, and what's the reason? What's your reasoning behind that?
Again, I put it down to the sentiment in the market. People seeing that now is a good time to buy Dubai real estate. So investors, I put this, obviously cash buyers predominantly are going to be investors.
There's not many cash buyer users, there can't be.
Exactly, so I think more investors are seeing that they feel that the market, again, is towards the bottom or at the bottom, but they're definitely thinking that in the next 4 to 5 years, it's going to be in a lot different and a lot better position than what we are today. So I think the wanting to enter into the market now, sit on the property for 2, 3, 4, 5 years.
And people never used to call me anymore because I haven't sold houses in years. And a couple of clients call me saying, right, get me 8 to 10% net yield and my money's ready. So I think them type of investors, they're coming out of the woodwork and they're seeing. I mean, I talked about this in the last video we did. Al-Andalus, the towers that handed over, was 3 towers that handed over. I think we rented 60 units in like a couple of weeks, and every unit was rented in like a month and a half, not even that, probably a month. So the sentiment is definitely there. And if you are a cash investor and you see that happen, you must be thinking, wow, there's an appetite for a buy-to-let here.
But I also think with investors, they're obviously very well connected by nature, usually, and they're also usually business people. Now, we know from our commercial team that our commercial team are absolutely flying at the moment. So there's a lot of good positive sentiment in the commercial side of Dubai and the business aspect of Dubai. So likewise, investors must be seeing this and thinking, do you know what, there's a lot of industry and business coming to Dubai at the moment.
I would want to buy at the moment. You know, I would look at buying another house, because I just think that your appreciation that you're going to get as well as your yield is going to be a double whammy for an investment over a few years. So obviously our mortgage buyers have increased as well. That's a 27% increase of mortgage buyers that have bought or sold a property, if it's not sold. So run me through that. Mortgage buyers that have bought a property.
So mortgage buyers Q3 this year compared to Q3 last year are up by 27%. I put that down to the positive sentiment we referenced earlier and just affordability. As we all know, the market's come down over the past 4 or 5 years quite significantly. Nobody wants to be a long-term tenant because it's dead money.
So this is purely, if you're a mortgage buyer, really, you're an end user. So we've seen a 27% increase in end users.
In end users entering the market.
Which is our market. That's what we said before. We said that we want families to move into homes. We're not interested in flipping buildings or floors. They'll leave that to the experts. We're experts at moving families into homes. Cool. Well, that's a good sign for our business, isn't it? Okay, so 7% have been a decrease in one-check rental payments. That means that if you're a landlord, the one-check rental payment days are over, unfortunately. So when I moved here in 2006, I remember whether you're in the military, you're in the schools, wherever you was, you'd get your salary, but you'd get a 200, 300,000 dirham one lump sum rent payment, and I think that's where the whole one-check payment comes from. And what I found interesting about this is that if you look at the next stat we've got here, is there's been an increase of 3 checks or more, which means really 3 checks, have come in of 24%.
Year on year,
So that is a massive takeaway, really, from the 1 and 2 check scenario. So we're starting to see Dubai become a normal city, really, aren't we? But even 4 checks really isn't normal.
Normal, sustainable. No, 12 checks is what's normal in the rest of the world.
It should be what it is. I mean, when I rented my property this year in Jumeirah Golf Estates, we handed over and rented it. And I said to anyone who's renting off, I said, just get me 12 checks. I don't care. I'm happy to receive a bit of money. But this client wants to pay 1 check. Just wanted to pay 1 check. And I think the mentality over here at the moment is slowly changing. But even 4 checks, I genuinely think the way the market needs to go is we need monthly instalments.
Which is like any mature property market in the world, is people pay their rent monthly. And like I say, and we've said for 2 or 3 years now, we do genuinely believe that's the direction Dubai is going, because at the moment we've still got situations where people are having to take loans to pay the rent. But it's not sustainable. Like you can't. The city won't grow as we all want it to grow if people are having to take loans to pay the rent, because it's just a circle of debt then.
I can only imagine, because obviously you've got your old school landlords that own properties and they've had 1 check for 10 years. And I've spoken to people that are like, if I don't get 1 check, I'm not renting it. Only way I can really see this pushing ahead is if the government make it standard. Look, we've got this new software, whatever it may be. You have to pay 1 instalment, direct debit. You can't cancel direct debit unless you cancel the tenancy. Something along them lines. And I think you know, even big. I think you see rental value go up because people would probably rent bigger properties.
Yeah, they would, 100%. It's like you mentioned you let your property on 12 checks. I did the same for mine, and I got more than. Because I see what we're renting properties for every day, and I got more than what the market is at the moment, and I'm sure you did too, because we took 12 checks.
But the thing is that as an investor, surely you would say, if I can get an extra 1% yield, I'd take my 12%. Obviously, it's nice to have the money in the bank, but
I think we maybe feel more comfortable because we're in the market every day. But we see that there's only a very small percentage of tenants that actually don't pay rent or that we have problems with, and because this is the big fear. People like 1 check as well because they know that they're locked in for the end. They've got the money, whereas over 12 checks, they see it as every month there's a risk of whether the tenant's going to pay or not. But I think from our point of view,
you ran out of breath there, by the way.
Yeah, I know I did.
Breathe.
I need to get in the gym. That's so bad. I can't even talk.
No, but I agree with you. It's the mindset just has to change. I think that's a simple fact. I think that will come with time. Secondary market resales. We have sold 36% more properties this year than last year with the same marketing budget, pretty much the same staff in sales. That's massive.
Yeah, huge.
So if I'm a buyer or a seller and I'm hearing that, forget Allsopp and Allsopp. This is just our stats. So someone might tell us differently with their own stats. But if I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, wow. Okay, so there's activity there. What I found with talking about the secondary market is when we're talking about there's an increase, prices haven't dropped in the last 8 months. What I found is that owners are now accepting what a marketing price is versus a sale price, because our job is to beat the drum and show owners what properties are sold for. And I think people are now realising, okay, that's probably the real value, not the value that I want in my head. And that comes with education, with data that's being released at the moment for our own sold data that we release to the market. But yeah, really good 36% increase.
And I think this is why this backs up the points we were making earlier about why people think we're either at the bottom or towards the bottom of the decline in the prices and the property curve, because if Q3 on Q3 with the same marketing spend and the same everything really, we're selling 36% more properties, then that's a sign that the market's getting a bit busier.
Massive sign. And that leads on to our next point, which we are really not strong in, which we don't want to be strong in, is off-plan sales have decreased 67% for us. Obviously for us that was, even last year was a minimal amount of our sales turnover, less than 5% of our 10% of our turnover last year. But what that says to me is it's in line with developers have been, I think there's a law that's come out, or there's a new board that's involved with overseeing the launches, isn't there? Where they're delaying launches because they're worried about handovers versus people and everything else. So I think we're going to see a lot less lot less launches take place. Even the big guys, I think they're going to slow it down because I think a lot of developers are left with surplus stock at the moment that they need to get sold, whether they're offering post-payment plans or anything else. But a decrease dramatically in our off-plan sales, but I'm happy with that because from my point of view, our market is all about estate agency. So I'm not going to complain with a decrease in that, as long as there's an increase on our main revenue streams. Last one to talk about here, there's two. We've got 1% decrease in average sale price, which is to be expected. It's probably about right.
And it's neither here nor there.
No,
when you're talking
it's up or down.
Quarter on a quarter comparison, it's a difference maybe in a property sale.
Correct.
Well, two property sales.
The big one is the 10% decrease in rental prices we've rented. That's properties we've rented sold. Now I'm going to put that a lot down to properties that maybe were vacant and then occupied for a year, and then when they become vacant, we've had to re-rent at the real value, not the rental they were getting 2 years ago. So I haven't really seen a dramatic decrease in rent in the last 8 months, even 6 months haven't. But there's definitely a knock-on effect from vacating properties from old tenants.
Yeah, there is, and I think, if we're being honest as well, we as a company have got stronger in some of the, I'm trying to think of the way to put it, what you'd call the more outlying areas of Dubai and the new communities that are handing over. So because we're diversifying and because we're wanting to expand and grow, we're renting a lot more properties out of what we used to call maybe central Dubai.
Yeah.
And I think with that is obviously
the value drop. It's like London, isn't it? You go central, and as you get further out, they get cheaper, but you get more fee money. And that's what a lot of people are doing. We talked about before, moving from Marina to Mira or to Sharma, where you get your own villa for the same price you get a one bed. So it's normal. Okay, so now we're going to talk about news. 3 bits of very interesting news that are definitely have caught our eye in the news that we want to share with anyone that's watching. So the biggest one here, which was a shock last year, was the UAE Central Bank removes the 3% early settlement fee for mortgages. In basic terms, if you sold your property for 2 million dirhams, the bank has the right to charge you 3%, which is 20, 40, 60 grand. Right, 60,000 dirhams is they could charge you on a 2 million loan to discharge. Now, there was terms and conditions signed before, maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. Banks were saying, look, Paul, I don't care what you signed 10 years ago. Central Bank have now said, I can charge you money. So if you want to sell your house, as well as paying your agency fee of 2% as a seller, and then you also want to sell your property, you've got to pay 3% to Central Bank. That's been removed. So now you need to pay 10,000 as a maximum or 1% based on the loan value. A good thing?
It's a hugely good thing, and I think the massive thing in all this as well is the power that the central bank are exerting, because you're exactly spot on. We've had so many instances where people have got the mortgage agreements they've signed where maybe they've had a 5,000 early settlement fee, but because the banks thought that they could charge 3%, they were saying to people, no, well, we don't care what you signed in your contract. The central bank have said now we can now charge 3%, so we're going to charge 3%.
In a declining market.
In a declining market.
Struggling clients that are matching their actual liquidity versus their. It blew my mind when it happened.
But it's crazy, but people are in situations where they needed to sell the house, so they couldn't really do anything. They couldn't do that much about it.
It's a quick way for banks to make money, it was. But anyway, if you are watching this and you want to know about the central bank, you are due your money back if you've paid more than 10,000 dirhams. So contact Stuart Rowe, who is our head of mortgages, and he will assist you in refunding that money and make sure that you get that. But there's going to be quite a few people that have overpaid, and the central bank are confirming within 30 days they have to receive the money back. So please do feel free to inbox me or Paul on LinkedIn, and we will put you in contact with the right people.
Just a final point on that, which is why I like it so much, and I said about the show of power. This gives confidence to the market
massively,
because people are seeing regulation in action, and they're seeing the framework and the structure that's been put in place. So, whereas in the past people might have viewed Dubai as, oh, don't buy a house there, you don't know exactly what's going to happen. Now this is a show of strength to say, yeah, do buy a house here because we'll look after you and we'll make sure that you're not ripped off.
I agree. Okay, next one we've got here is the affordability in Dubai, driving 5-year high in villas and townhouses. So, villa and townhouses sales in Dubai have hit a 5-year high for the first 3 quarters of 2019. 5,812 villas have been sold and transacted in Dubai, which is higher than any year in 2017 and 2018. We're talking about the market.
Exactly matches our stats, yeah.
I don't think we need to overhype that. I think if anyone's watching this and they're not involved in the property market, there is a lot of people moving into a lot of houses, and a lot of people are talking about the data that we're talking about. But if you're a naysayer about Dubai, I think people are not moving into the houses. There's only so many stats that estate agents can give you, developers, property portals, where we're already at the end of year cap. So in September we've done more sales in villas than the whole of the year in 2017-18. So activity, I think we don't need to talk anymore about that.
No, sorry to interrupt.
But you're going to talk more about it.
All I'm going to say is what I think it's great for as well. Villas and townhouses, it shows people are settling down in Dubai, seeing a long-term future and starting families. If we think back between, say, 7 and 11 years of Allsopp, the people who started 7, 11 years ago, and we all lived in apartments in a marina.
The Marina Tower next to the Grove now. Where do you live?
Torch.
The Torch.
For a while, yeah. But as well as we've grown with Allsopp, we've all grown our families, and we've all moved to villa communities and bought houses in villa communities.
Yeah. Comes, like I said, it's the natural growth, isn't it? You get a wife, and then you get a child, and then you need a garden, and you need the playground, you need somewhere to. You go from that, okay, I need to be in marina because the clubs and bars are there and everything else, and the shopping, and your life changes. So I think the longer people are here, the cycle changes with it. So it's a really, really interesting, and that backs up everything that we're saying. Yeah. So 5-year high for villas in townhouse sales in Dubai. Next one we've got here, a report on the Arabian business. The property sales rise as prices drop by up to 6%. So it's saying here that in Q3 we had more buyers registering, a 12% growth in sales that have happened, but a decrease in value in sales, as in the actual value itself. Again, I think you summarise that very simply. It's land department stats here. If you own a property in Dubai, it's probably not worth what it was 2-3 years ago, and you've got to make a decision if or not you want to sell it. But if you want to sell it, you can. The market is there to be sold. But it's just whether or not what your situation is for why you want to sell.
What your situation and why you need the money. And the other fact that we're seeing more and more of, and we're doing a lot more training sessions and focusing heavily on it, is chain building. So which is, again, it happens in mature markets around the world. So people will either upsize or downsize, but need to sell one property to buy another.
Correct.
So if you're chain building at the moment, yes, prices have dropped 6%, but the price on your onward purchase has also dropped 6%.
The big issue in Dubai at the moment for me, when you talk about chain building, which is becoming a thing where what we're saying, a first-time buyer will start the chain, buy off an owner that's buying on. The biggest issue in that chain is that there's no mechanism at the moment for in England. So if there's a 5-man chain where at the end of it this person's not buying on, which will happen, a lawyer in England can enact the chain and you can release the funds in exchange and complete at the same time, and everyone can have the house. Where in Dubai, one's got to get the money, a manager's check, clear it, wait a day or two, at least a day or two, then book their appointment, get their money. So a chain of 5 can transfer over like 10 or 15 days, which is insane.
It can be worse then, because in some cases you're almost starting a whole sales transaction again once there's mortgages involved, so it could go on for months.
So I think that will, as we talk about the mature market, I think that's going to change.
There's got to be some change to the framework, the structure.
We like change anyway. Okay, and the last thing to talk about today is we're just going to go through a couple of most notable transactions in Dubai. So if we look at the sales, if you look in our Springs office here, so I'm looking at a transaction here, 9,050,000. We sold a Hatan Al2 on the market for 28 days and 12 viewings is when we sold it. That's for 9 million dirhams. That there on its own, having a property on the market for 28 days, a post 5 million dirham sale is incredible. But if you look across the stats here, I was looking at before, half of the properties on here were on the market for less than a day.
Yeah.
So we'd sold them before we hit the market. So you've got one here for 9.2 million in Jumeirah Golf Estates that was on the market for no days. We did 3 viewings. So it must have literally signed the contract with the owner saying let's sell it, booked 3 viewings and sold it. And that's a massive sale.
And this is a personal bugbear of mine since I worked in the estate agency. Sometimes we're the only industry, I feel, that get penalised or criticised for doing your job very well.
Yeah.
So the fact we've sold that within one day...
Why are we paying you anything?
Yeah, that's too easy, you've not done anything. But what you don't see is the months and years of marketing that's gone into that.
And the
expertise. Yeah, exactly. So that's not just because, it's gone on the market and we've luckily found a buyer. That's months and months of hard work, years of that's gone into being able to sell something.
But we're doing our job. That's what we've been asked to do.
That's what we're here for. We're registering.
Another interesting sale here that I've got for you is 5.6 million for a master view in Jumeirah Islands. So that would have been so much more money a master view if you got 4 or 5 years ago. I reckon I was seeing at 8 million dirhams. So that was on the market for 2 months. We did 15 viewings on it. The 15 viewings to a sale again is incredible. What I find in this market, anything post 5 million is always going to take a little bit longer than anything else. Meadows again, you've got type 7 here in Meadows 2, 3.85 million, not on the market for 0 days and 11 viewings a day. Come on to sell. That shows the activity in this market is just insane.
There's buyers lined up. Yeah.
That is incredible. And sales again, they've got the rental side of the market. Jumeirah Golf Estates, 410,000 on the market for 36 days. The average across the board is around 30, 35 days for a rental property to stay on the market. That's the last thing I would say on the market is that if you drive around the Springs, Lakes, Meadows, Marina, there's not loads of empty properties. People always say, who's going to live in these properties? We keep up to them on our books maximum 30 days, on average 2 weeks, and they're gone.
Yeah. What's the population increase this year?
310,000 people have moved to Dubai this year. Even if you say, which everyone seems to say, 90% are labourers, let's say that's what it is, that's still 31,000 people. There's only 25,000 houses handed over. So officially, there is an undersupply.
6,000 people have nowhere to live.
Where are they going to live? We'll find somewhere. But thank you very much for tuning into the Q3 market update of Allsopp and Allsopp. These are our stats, real live information from Allsopp and Allsopp's data itself. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Lewis.
And we'll see you soon.
Speak to you soon.